My ex-wife sued me for my inheritance. She said half that money should be mine because we were married when your mom died. Where are you watching this from? Subscribe, say hi, and be part of our growing family. I was sitting in my cramped Atlanta apartment when the certified letter arrived. My hands trembled as I tore open the envelope, expecting maybe a late bill or jury duty notice. What I got instead made my blood run cold. Plaintiff, Tricia Marshall versus defendant, Leonard Bradley. Civil suit for marital asset division. My ex-wife was suing me for my mother's inheritance. The mother who died 3 years ago while we were still married, yes, but the money I'd put into a trust for my daughter's college fund. Every single dollar. I had to read it twice because my brain refused to process it. We'd been divorced for 2 years. 2 years. The settlement was final. She'd gotten the house in Decatur, the newer car, and I'd kept my beat-up Honda and moved into this showbox apartment that smelled like old carpet and someone else's cooking. I'd accepted it because I just wanted out of that toxic marriage. Now she wanted more. My phone buzzed. A text from Tricia, "You should have just given me what I asked for. Now my lawyer's gonna take it all. Hope your pride was worth it." I stared at those words, feeling something crack inside my chest. This was the woman I'd loved for 8 years, who'd held my hand at Mama's funeral, who'd whispered "we'll get through this together," while I sobbed into her shoulder. That woman was gone. Or maybe she'd never existed. 2 years earlier, I'd come home early from my shift at the warehouse. I was picking up a few extra hours back then, trying to save money for Destiny's braces. She was 12 and self-conscious about her smile. I wanted to fix that for her. I walked through our front door at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, my back aching, ready to grab a shower and maybe catch a nap before my second shift. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Male laughter. Coming from upstairs. From our bedroom. My stomach dropped like I'd swallowed a stone. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my work boots heavy on the carpet we'd picked out together at that HomeGoods in Buckhead. The door was half open. I saw them before they saw me. Tricia and DeAndre. My cousin. My blood. In my bed. On the sheets my mama had given us as a wedding present. Leonard. Tricia scrambled to cover herself, her eyes wide. Not with shame. With annoyance. Like I'd interrupted something inconvenient. DeAndre didn't even have the decency to look guilty. He smirked, actually smirked, as he reached for his jeans. "Man, this ain't what it looks like," he started, but I was already walking away. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the banister. I heard Tricia calling after me, her voice sharp. "Leonard, wait. Let me explain. It was just this once. Leonard." It wasn't just once. I'd find that out later from her sister Tamara, who'd been covering for her for months. 8 months of lies, of late-night work meetings and girls' trips that never included actual girls. 3 months before I discovered Tricia's affair, Mama got sick. Real sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctor said 6 months, maybe. She lasted 4. I watched my mother, the strongest woman I'd ever known, the woman who'd raised me and my sister Yanel alone after Daddy left, waste away to nothing. She'd worked 2 jobs my entire childhood, saved every penny, scrimped and sacrificed so we could have opportunities she'd never had. In those final weeks, Mama was lucid enough to talk about her affairs. She'd pull me close, her hand skeletal in mine, and whisper about the life insurance policy, the small investment account she'd been building for 20 years. "This is for Destiny's education, baby," she told me, her voice raspy. "That child's smart. Brilliant. Don't let nobody touch this money except for her future. Promise me, Leonard." I'd promised. Held her hand and swore on everything I'd ever loved. Tricia had been there too, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. Bringing Mama soup she wouldn't eat, fluffing pillows, taking photos of us together that she'd post on Facebook with captions about family and strength and God's plan. I remembered being grateful for her support. Now those memories felt poisoned. Had she been calculating even then, watching Mama die and adding up dollar signs? The inheritance was $237,000. Life insurance and investments. every penny stained with Mama's sacrifice. The divorce proceedings had been brutal. Trisha wanted everything. She'd hired Ronald Hutchins, this shark of a lawyer who drove a Mercedes and wore suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My lawyer, James Park, was a decent guy I'd found through legal aid, working out of a cramped office in East Point. David versus Goliath didn't even begin to cover it. I'd agreed to almost everything Trisha demanded because I was exhausted. Emotionally bankrupt. She got the house we'd bought together, the one I'd worked 16-hour days to afford. She got the living room set, the fancy kitchen appliances, even the PlayStation Destiny and I used to play together on weekends. I didn't care. Material things felt meaningless after watching Mama die and my marriage implode. But the inheritance. That was Mama's legacy. That was Destiny's future. That was the line I wouldn't cross. She has no legal claim, James had assured me during the divorce. The inheritance came to you as a beneficiary. It's not marital property. Georgia law is clear. So we'd finalized everything. I'd signed papers, watched Trisha's satisfied smile as she got the house keys, and moved into my tiny apartment with 3 boxes of belongings and a broken heart. I thought it was over. I'd been naive. Now, sitting in James's cramped office, I stared at the lawsuit. How is this even possible? I asked. My voice sounded hollow. James rubbed his temples. It's frivolous, Leonard. But frivolous lawsuits still cost money to fight. She's betting you can't afford it. I needed to understand what I was dealing with, so I started digging. Called up Tamara, Trisha's younger sister, the one who'd eventually told me about the affairs. Plural. Because DeAndre hadn't been the only one. We met at a Waffle House off I-85, the fluorescent lights harsh against her tired face. Tamara looked like she'd aged 5 years in the 2 since I'd seen her. Leonard, I'm sorry, she started, not meeting my eyes. I should have told you sooner. Way sooner. She stirred her coffee, the spoon clinking against the ceramic in a nervous rhythm. Trisha's been with DeAndre since before y'all got married. On and off. He's the one who pushed her to go after the inheritance. He's got this whole plan. My stomach turned. What plan? Tamara's voice dropped to almost a whisper. He's been in debt. Bad debt. Gambling. Owes some people from College Park serious money. Like 50 grand serious. They've been threatening him. Trisha thinks if she gets half the inheritance, she can bail him out and they can start over together. The room felt like it was spinning. Everything clicked into place with nauseating clarity. The sudden interest in Mama's finances during her illness. Trisha asking pointed questions about life insurance payouts. Her rage when I'd put the money in trust. She'd never wanted me. She'd wanted what I could provide. And now, even divorced, she was still reaching into my life, trying to take the last thing that mattered. There's more, Tamara continued. She's telling people you hid assets during the divorce. That you're sitting on all this money while she struggles to make the mortgage. She's painting herself as the victim. I laughed, a bitter sound. She got the house. A house she can't afford without your income. She's 3 months behind on payments. Leonard, she's desperate. That night, I had Destiny for my weekend visit. She was 14 now, growing into a beautiful, brilliant young woman who somehow still loved her disaster of a father. We were eating Chinese takeout in my living room, her sitting cross-legged on my second-hand couch, when she went quiet. Too quiet. I knew that look. Something was eating at her. Baby girl, what's wrong? I asked, setting down my low mine. She picked at her fried rice, not looking up. Mom said something weird last week. My chest tightened. What did she say? Destiny's voice got small. She said that Grandma's money should have helped us keep our house. That you were being selfish keeping it all for yourself. She said I should talk to you about it. Make you see reason. The rage that flooded through me was white hot. Using our daughter as a weapon. Poisoning her against me. Making a child feel responsible for adult financial failures. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. Destiny, Look at me. She raised her eyes, and I saw tears threatening to spill. That money is yours. It's in a trust fund for your college. Grandma made me promise it would go to your education. Nobody's being selfish. Your mom knows this. She's going through something right now. She's really mad at you, Dad. Destiny's voice cracked. She says a lot of stuff. About how you ruined everything. How you're making her life impossible. I pulled my daughter close, felt her shake against me. I need you to understand something. Adult problems are not your responsibility. Not mine and your mom's divorce. Not money. Not houses. Your only job is to be 14 and worry about school and friends and TikTok or whatever you kids are into. She laughed wetly against my shoulder. Dad, everyone's on TikTok. 2 months into the lawsuit, I sat in a conference room downtown for my deposition. Trisha's lawyer, Ronald Hutchins, was a man who clearly enjoyed crushing people. He had this predatory smile, perfectly capped teeth, and a way of asking questions that made everything sound like an accusation. Trisha sat across the table from me, looking polished and put together in a navy dress that was definitely new. I wondered who'd paid for it. Mr. Bradley, when your mother passed, you received approximately $237,000, correct? Ronald's voice was smooth as silk. Yes. And you chose not to inform your wife at the time of the exact amount. It was in the middle of her affair with my cousin. I wasn't feeling particularly communicative. I couldn't help the edge in my voice. Ronald smiled like I'd given him exactly what he wanted. So you admit you deliberately withheld financial information during your marriage? James interjected, that's not what he said. But Ronald was already moving, circling like a shark. Mr. Bradley, isn't it true that you placed this inheritance in a trust specifically to prevent your wife from having any access to it? I placed it in trust for my daughter's education, as my mother requested. A trust your wife's name isn't on. She's not Destiny's mother, I started, then caught myself. Trisha's head snapped up. For a second, raw hurt flashed across her face before the mask came back. She'd raised Destiny since age 6. That had been a low blow, and I knew it. So you admit, Ronald continued, that you made a unilateral decision about a significant marital asset without consulting your spouse. The deposition lasted 4 hours. By the end, I felt hollowed out, every word twisted into something ugly. A week after the deposition, my phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Leonard. It was Tamara, her voice panicked. You need to hear something. I recorded Trisha and DeAndre tonight. They were at my apartment. Thought I was asleep. Leonard, it's bad. She sent me the audio file. I sat in my dark apartment, headphones in, and listened to my ex-wife and my cousin plot my destruction. Trisha's voice came through clear. Ronald says we can drag this out for months. Leonard doesn't have the money for a prolonged legal battle. He'll settle eventually. Give us at least half to make it go away. DeAndre's laugh was cruel. Man's too soft. Always has been. Working his life away at that warehouse like that's gonna make him somebody. He should thank us. We're teaching him a lesson about the real world. The thing is, Trisha continued, I know Leonard. He'll cave because of Destiny. He won't want her seeing us fight in court. We just need to push the right buttons. Make him think he's hurting her by fighting. I've already started talking to her about it. Planting seeds. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. She was weaponizing my love for my daughter, counting on my decency as a weakness to exploit. The recording continued. DeAndre's voice dropped lower. What if we can't get the money? My guy's breathing down my neck. He's not playing. He wants his 50 grand by New Year's or, we'll get it, Trisha cut him off. Even if we only get 50,000 in settlement, that's enough to clear your debt. We'll figure out the rest. I listened to the whole thing twice. Then I forwarded it to James with a simple message, call me as soon as you get this. My sister Yanelle flew in from Houston the next weekend. She'd been furious when I told her about the lawsuit, but I'd begged her not to get involved. Now, after hearing the recording, she'd had enough. Yanel was 2 years younger than me but had always been the fighter in our family. Where I was quiet and steady, she was fire and fury. She showed up at my apartment with a suitcase and a battle plan. "We're not letting that woman steal Mama's legacy," she announced, dropping her bag in my living room. "I've got 2 weeks off work, and I'm using every day to help you fight this." Over coffee, I played her the recording. Watched her face cycle through shock, disgust, and finally, cold rage. When it finished, she sat back. DeAndre was at Mama's funeral. Cried like a baby. Hugged you. Told you he'd always have your back. And this is what he really thought. "People surprise you," I said quietly. Yanel's eyes flashed. "That's not surprise, Leonard. That's betrayal. That's evil. And Trisha using destiny? Making that baby feel responsible for adult mess? No. We're not letting this stand." She pulled out her laptop. "I'm a paralegal, remember? I might not be a lawyer, but I know how to research. Let's find everything we can on frivolous lawsuits, legal precedent, whatever we need. If Ronald wants a fight, we'll give him one he wasn't expecting." For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. Yanel caught my expression and squeezed my hand. Mama didn't raise quitters. She fought her whole life for us. Now we fight for her memory and for Destiny's future. This ends now. James Park might have been a legal aid attorney, but he was smarter than Ronald Hutchins gave him credit for. When I showed him the recording, his eyes lit up. "This is gold, Leonard. This proves malicious intent. She's not claiming marital property rights because she believes she's entitled. She's doing it to extort you and fund her boyfriend's gambling debts. That changes everything." We filed a counter-motion. Not just to dismiss her lawsuit, but to pursue sanctions against her for filing a frivolous claim and to formally document her harassment. James also filed for an emergency modification of the custody arrangement, citing Trisha's attempts to manipulate Destiny against me. The recording was submitted as evidence, along with text messages Tamara had helped us retrieve from Trisha's iCloud backup. Messages where Trisha explicitly discussed using Destiny as leverage. The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, Trisha's facade started cracking. She called me 17 times in 2 days, her voice growing more desperate with each voicemail. "Leonard, we need to talk. Leonard, please. This is getting out of hand. We can work this out without courts and lawyers. Think about Destiny." The final voicemail was different. Cold. "You're going to regret this. You think you're so righteous, but you're just a selfish bastard who can't forgive a mistake. I hope you're happy with yourself." I saved every message. Ronald Hutchins called James with a settlement offer. If I dropped the countersuit, Trisha would withdraw her claim. No money exchanged. Both sides walk away. James asked me what I wanted to do. I thought about Mama. About Destiny. About every sacrifice and betrayal. "We go to court," I said. "This needs to end properly." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Patricia Morehouse presided, a black woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Trisha sat at the plaintiff's table in a conservative grey suit, her expression carefully neutral. DeAndre wasn't there. Smart man. Ronald presented their case first, painting me as a vindictive ex-husband who'd hidden assets and now refused to honor the spirit of our marriage. "Your Honor, Mrs. Marshall supported Mr. Bradley through his mother's illness, provided emotional labor and care." "Mrs. Marshall." Judge Morehouse interrupted. "I believe these parties are divorced." Ronald's smile tightened. "Ms. Marshall, Your Honor. During their marriage, she was a devoted partner who reasonably expected to share in all marital assets, including inheritances received during that time." Then it was James's turn. He was calm, methodical. He presented the timeline, the inheritance received 3 years ago, placed immediately in trust per my mother's wishes. The divorce finalized 2 years ago with a complete asset division. The lawsuit filed 2 years after that, conveniently when Trisha learned about DeAndre's debts. Then James played the recording. In the quiet courtroom, Trisha and DeAndre's voices rang out with crystal clarity. I watched Trisha's face drain of color. Watched Ronald Hutchins's jaw tighten. When the recording ended, Judge Morehouse removed her glasses. Counselor, does your client wish to withdraw her claim? Ronald stood. Your Honor, that recording was obtained without my client's knowledge or consent. In her sister's home, the judge cut in. A private conversation. Georgia is a one-party consent state. The recording is admissible. I'll ask again. Does your client wish to withdraw? The silence stretched. Then Trisha stood, her voice barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. But Judge Morehouse wasn't done. Ms. Marshall, I've reviewed this case thoroughly. You filed a claim for marital assets 2 years after your divorce was finalized. You've submitted no new evidence that would warrant revisiting that settlement. Instead, I have evidence of ulterior motives, manipulation of a minor child, and what appears to be an attempt at legal extortion. I'm dismissing your case with prejudice. Additionally, I'm awarding attorney's fees to Mr. Bradley and imposing sanctions of $5,000 for filing a frivolous lawsuit. Trisha's face crumpled. Your Honor, I can't afford. You should have considered that before filing this suit, the judge said, her voice sharp. Furthermore, regarding the custody matter, Mr. Bradley, your motion for emergency modification is granted. Ms. Marshall, you will cease all discussion of financial matters with the minor child. You will attend 4 sessions of family counseling before unsupervised visits resume. This behavior is unacceptable and harmful to your daughter. Do you understand? Trisha nodded, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage and humiliation. Outside the courthouse, Yanel hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. James shook my hand, grinning. We did it, Leonard. It's over. I felt numb. Victory didn't taste like I'd thought it would. It was quieter, more subdued, like finally being able to breathe after holding your breath underwater for too long. My phone buzzed. A text from Destiny. Mom told me what happened. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't understand before. Can we talk tonight? That's when it hit me. Really hit me. I'd won. Mama's legacy was safe. Destiny would have her future. The nightmare was over. 6 months later, I stood in Destiny's room, helping her pack for a college tour. She'd been accepted into an early program at Georgia Tech, her first choice. Full scholarship for academics, but the trust fund would cover room and board, books, living expenses. Everything Mama had dreamed of. Destiny held up 2 shirts. Which one says future engineer more? I smiled. They both say my daughter's brilliant and I'm proud of her. Trisha and I had reached a fragile peace. She'd completed the counseling, and we maintained civil communication for Destiny's sake. I'd learned she'd broken up with DeAndre after the trial. Apparently, when his debts were exposed, some of his creditors found creative ways to motivate payment. Last I heard, he'd moved to Alabama. I didn't ask for details. Tamara had apologized profusely for not speaking up sooner. I'd forgiven her. Holding grudges took energy I didn't have anymore. My warehouse promoted me to shift supervisor. Better pay, better hours. I'd moved to a nicer apartment in Midtown. Nothing fancy, but it had 2 bedrooms so Destiny had her own space when she visited. I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, but I was remembering what it felt like to trust someone. To believe in possibility. Yanel visited monthly, and we'd scattered some of Mama's ashes at her favorite spot on Stone Mountain. Just the 3 of us, me, Yanel, and Destiny. Dad. Destiny's voice pulled me back. Yeah, baby girl. Thank you. For fighting for Grandma's money. For fighting for me. I pulled her into a hug. Always. Destiny. Always. Outside, the Atlanta skyline glowed golden in the sunset. Mama would have loved this view. Would have loved seeing her granddaughter headed to college, brilliant and strong and unbroken by our family's drama. I'd kept my promise. The money stayed protected. The legacy remained intact. And we'd all survived the storm. If you believe people like Trisha and DeAndre should face consequences for their manipulation, hit that subscribe button. Only manipulators and con artists won't. Comment protect what matters if you stand against people who weaponize children in adult conflicts. And smash that like button if you believe a mother's legacy should be honored, not stolen. Only trolls, scammers, and toxic exes disagree.